Hello and welcome. My name is Kyle Boston with First Coast Financial Group, and welcome to our video on RMDs, or required minimum distributions. So in this video, what I want to go over is the who, what, when, where, and why of RMDs. Also, I'm going to go over what you can do with some of these RMDs that you have to take out every year, and I'm also going to cover what you may not know about RMDs. So I'm going to throw a couple of interesting tidbits in there. So stick around to the end of the video to get to that part of this. So what is an RMD, or required minimum distribution, and why on earth do we have to take them? Well, per the IRS, they don't want you keeping funds in your retirement accounts forever. So your IRAs, your 401ks, 403b, simple, basically anything that we call a qualified account, you need to take an RMD from once you turn a certain age. Also, if you've inherited an IRA from a loved one who's passed away, you also may have to take RMDs from those accounts as well. That's a slightly different story and slightly different calculation, and I'll probably get into in more detail in another video, but the general concept is pretty similar with those. So why do we have to take RMDs every year out of your qualified accounts? Really, because the IRS wants their tax revenue. So they don't want to wait until someone passes away and then they start generating revenue on the tax side of whoever inherited that IRA. Basically, they say that once you turn a certain age and you haven't taken money out of your accounts, or if you have these accounts with a balance in them, they're expecting you to take them out, take the funds out as retirement funds. That's initially how they're intended to be used. It's kind of a reason why they're tax deferred going in, and coming out. You pay taxes on the money coming out of those qualified plans. So the RMDs are taxable out of these accounts. Another important thing to keep in mind. So who needs to take RMDs? Again, I already mentioned if you've inherited an IRA from a loved one, this doesn't necessarily apply to you. It's a similar but different procedure. So historically, anyone who's age 70 and a half, you have to take an RMD. But in 2019, something called the Secure Act came out, and the rules changed a little bit. So per those rules, if your 70th birthday is July 1st of 2019 or later, you don't have to take an RMD until you're age 72. So really, if you're watching this video today and you're not 70 years old yet, you can probably look to age 72 before you have to start taking your first required minimum distribution. Now, how much do you need to take? Well, that kind of depends on your age. So the IRS has life expectancy tables that are associated with these RMDs, required minimum distributions. And you can find that right on their website. You can look it up, RMDs, IRS, and you should be able to find those calculations. But odds are, if you've got a qualified account, so a retirement plan or an IRA somewhere at, say, a Fidelity or a TD Ameritrade somewhere, they should be doing some of the calculations for you, and they should be sending you some correspondence, or at least showing you that, hey, you need to take an RMD this year and it's going to be this amount. So really, that may be the first place you check, because that's going to be a whole lot easier than going to the IRS life expectancy tables, multiplying it against your prior year-end value of that account, and then figuring out your RMD. Let your custodian kind of do that for you. So your TD Ameritrade, your Fidelity, Schwab, whoever you may use for that. You may be asking, well, what happens if I don't take them? For example, for us as advisors, we have some clients who they may not need their RMDs in their income picture. So they may not need to take a withdrawal from their retirement accounts. And they say, well, what if I don't take my RMD? Well, if you don't take your RMD, you're going to get hit with a 50% excise tax, or a tax penalty on the amount you should have taken out. So let me break that down for you. What that really means is that if your RMD for that year that you turned 72 is $4,000, and you opt not to take it, or you forget to take it, either or, Essentially what's going to happen is you're going to be hit with that excise tax or the tax penalty for $2,000. So you'll owe $2,000 as opposed to really just paying taxes on the $4,000 that came out at the current tax rate, which now for most people could be between 12 and 20% somewhere. So really something you want to avoid every year. These things are a lot simpler than some people like to think. Really, most places will let you set up automatic RMDs. So you could take them out monthly. The amount you're supposed to take out for the year broken down monthly. You can have your taxes withheld directly through there. We walk our clients through all of those parts of that process, and we try to make it as easy as they can. So that's kind of the basics of the RMD. I really don't want to get into the different moving parts of this beyond what I've done, but what I do want to cover is some things that you can do with the RMD. So some clients of ours, or this may pertain to you watching this video, you may actually need to use that RMD every year that you take out, and you may already take it out monthly, and you may use that as part of your income, and if so, well, great, it's pretty much handled. But keep in mind, as you get older, this RMD is going to increase because that life expectancy table with the IRS is going to make you, essentially, it's going to force that calculation up higher every single year as you get older. So if you don't need the RMD, here you could essentially just reinvest it in another account. It doesn't have to be another IRA because you may not be able to contribute to one. So what you can do is basically put it into a non-qualified or an individual brokerage account, and basically you're taxed on the earnings in that account. Instead of it all being taxable as ordinary income, like an IRA, you're taxed on it in capital gains, so long-term, short-term capital gains. So it's kind of a way, instead of putting the money in the bank where, in today's world, banks aren't really paying much on interest, you're kind of losing to inflation, every week, every month, and so on and so forth. You can still participate in the market with the money that you've taken out of your IRA. Some people don't know that, so that's okay. You can do that. One interesting thing, if you're charitably inclined, say you contribute to charity every year, what you can do is you can actually have a part or all of your RMD go directly from your IRA, for example, to a charity. And we've had clients do this, and this is great because
it's called a qualified charitable deduction, or a QCD.
And with this, you can contribute up to $100,000 a year of your qualified account directly to a charity and not pay taxes on it. So if you're already planning on giving to charity and you have to take an RMD that you won't need for income or other uses, this is something interesting to consider to save you some money on taxes. So what else can we do? Well, if you're still working, there is a chance, especially for those that have an inherited IRA, there is a chance that you can put that money into a Roth IRA. And really, this is part of a larger conversation. With a Roth IRA, money coming out, instead of being tax deferred, where it's all taxable once you take it out of the account, it's actually tax free. And on Roth accounts, the money grows tax free and it's withdrawn tax free. Obviously, there's parameters around Roth accounts that are similar to regular IRAs. So, but you can also there's no RMDs out of the Roth, essentially. Something to consider, and this doesn't fit for everybody. So you need to make sure that you talk to an advisor, whether that's us or somebody else that you know or trust. Talk to them about doing a Roth conversion and see if it's appropriate for you. This can be beneficial to especially retirees and people saving for retirement in multiple ways. Really, if we're looking and forecasting higher tax rates in the future, having a tax-free account to pull your retirement income from is not a bad thing, instead of paying taxes every year as they increase on these taxable accounts. Also, if you may not know already, Social Security is taxable. There's a Medicare tax that kind of scales with your income. So if you're somebody that, say, you've saved a lot of money throughout your lifetime and you may have a $40,000 RMD coming up, that's already going to start bumping you up in some of these tax brackets. And if it's more than 40,000, you are already dealing with something like this. So there's a Roth option to help alleviate some of that, and some advanced planning that we like to do around that concept. So if that pertains to you, you feel free to give us a call. We'll be happy to talk to you a little bit more about that. Also, I'll be doing a more detailed video on the Roth concept, and also on the Roth conversion concept, to try to shed a little bit more light on those details. Now, another thing that you may not know about RMDs is that you can actually lengthen your life expectancy with the IRS in certain instances. Now, really, this does not pertain to everybody, but it does pertain to those who have a spouse that's significantly younger than them. So if your spouse is at least 10 years younger than you, you can basically lower the amount that you're supposed to withdraw by lengthening your life expectancy. So the way the IRS would look at it is, you're filing as a married couple jointly already. What they would do is, instead of looking at just your individual life expectancy, they would factor in the younger spouse and say, hey, you'll have to take less of an RMD over time. And that may be a nice thing to do for you, especially if you're kind of still in the saving mode, or if you really don't need to take or don't want to take the RMDs. That could save you a good bit of money every single year. So with all that being said, that's kind of the who, what, when, where, and why of RMDs. And hopefully a couple of those things got you thinking about what you can do with the RMDs that you are taking out, whether you need them or not. And as always, you can find our information on firstcoastfinancialgroup.com. You can schedule a meeting directly on there. You can look to see more of these videos that we'll be posting that go over some retirement concepts here. And you can always just give us a call. We'll be happy to meet with you and discuss some of these in more detail. But again, this has been Kyle Boston with First Coast Financial Group. Thank you so much for watching.